So can't introduce some authentic kind of musical disc that I would play. Musical disc called the Coxton Fevers, I would say. But I keep it to you if you can, from east, west, north to south London town. Now if you're black or white, you really gotta stick around and be no clown. You the brother Coxton gotta put down, you know. Sound called Coxton, it sounds first, and I will tell it to you. Sounds that control the universe designed to quench your musical thirst. Some kind of cloud burst, you know.
My name is Solomon Malcolm. I'm here to talk a little bit about reggae sound systems. And there was a video interviewed with Lloyd Coxton talking about David Rodigan. I was going to comment a bit about that. Now, people don't realize, Mikey Dread said many times when he was being interviewed that David Rodigan was a fan of his. And he gave David Rodigan a demo tape of his show. I think it was called Dread at the Controls. And his show was made in Jamaica in the 70s, because you could only play reggae music after midnight, and you couldn't have any talking because of the political violence at the time. They did not want Rasta starting any revolutions. So what Mikey Dread did on his show to get around that, he just played the tunes, and he had jingles and sound effects between the records, you know. And then he done a demo tape. He gave it to David Rodigan, who was a fan. And then David Rodigan took the tape to the BBC. And because the tape didn't have any talking on it, they thought that Rodigan had made the show himself. And they gave him a job on the BBC hosting a reggae show. That is how it all started, you know, because his show was basically a copy of Mikey Dread's show, with all the samples and sound effects, Dread at the Controls, Wake Up Jamaica, and all that stuff. All of those samples and gimmicks were just copied off Mikey Dread. And that is how he got his start in the reggae industry. It wasn't, he didn't do anything directly himself.
My name is Sharon Parks. I used to work at Greensleeves Records. I just want to say, from my point of view, that this is so totally wrong, and David Rodigan needs to show some humbleness. You cannot say that you are the godfather of reggae and take that accolade when there have been so many before you who still to this day remain voiceless and faceless, but have propelled you to where you are today. You say that, you say in your response to Lloyd Coxton that you have never said that you were the godfather, yet when you were interviewed by a particular journalist who said, here we have the godfather of reggae, you didn't refute it. You happily took on that mantle that you are. So there are, and in your response to Coxton, you didn't actually respond. So you're guilty as charged. And everything Lloyd Coxton said is 100% true. My only thing is, I wish he'd said it about 40 years ago, but unfortunately we didn't have social media 40 years ago. But now it's gone viral and everybody knows that, and sees you for what you really are. All I have to say is, you need to show some humbleness. You are one of many. Reggae didn't start with you. It sure as hell won't end with you, because reggae is bigger than you, but you seem to think that you're bigger than reggae.
There is nothing wrong with what Lloyd Coxton said. For my growing sound, when I'm young, I've heard Lloyd Coxton's name. If we was to go into a club owned by people of another race and say that we was the godfather of their music, they would have something to say. Lloyd Coxton is a veteran, an honourable man, and a warrior. And in this time now, what he said is right and correct and proper. And we need to stand together, and more of us need to come out and say what we need to say. And we do need to be awarded for our works. You know? My name is Cardell Dwight Tobias Style Finnis from Labatt Grove, going around People Sound. My cousin, DC, Eddie Crusoe, it's part of Mombasa Sound. I know Peckins.
Marlon, my name's Marlon. I'm here to add to the debate about Rodigan being the godfather of reggae. All I can add to this is that I find it quite ludicrous really because, you know, I was brought up on sound system, many sound systems up and down the country. And as far as I'm concerned, if it wasn't for the sound systems, we wouldn't know about reggae, we wouldn't know about half of the artists, we wouldn't know about what was going on in Jamaica. That was like educational for us. And at that point in time, when I used to go listening to dances on sound system, Rodigan was nowhere to be found or seen. And that's how it is as far as I'm concerned. So for whether he was given that title, whether he claimed it, he should have turned around and said, no, I am not the godfather of reggae music. There are many others before me that have paved the way for reggae music to be where it is today. And may I just add one thing? You know, the reggae industry is the jewel in our crown. And we don't have it, we don't control it anymore. And many people should have formed careers, jobs, prosperity out of that industry, and they haven't. Reggae is still the poor relation to all other music. Why is that? And for many people in Jamaica, artists, producers, even the Jamaican government, you've got something to answer to, because not only here we've got something to answer to, but there also. Because too many people are fighting out against reggae music. For what reason? And look what reggae music has brought to the world. So on that note, I would like to say, David Rodigan, really, you should have stood up, you should have taken your criticism and come back and said, I am not the godfather of reggae music. So that's why you're getting all this heat and pressure now. And at the end of the day, it's not a lot of heat and pressure compared to the amount of money that you have earned off of the back of reggae music.
My name is Mandingo, African from Jamaica, and I give thanks and praises to the Almighty Creator. I'm here to address the recent controversy regarding Lloyd Coxson's statement, which was not a rant, it was a statement on the state of the reggae industry in Britain and in Jamaica. And this, of course, includes his reference to David Rodigan, the radio DJ. I want people to know that I was born and bred in Jamaica, and I grew up in the sound system world in Jamaica from the 1950s. St. John's Road, Spanish Town, Friendship Government School, where my father was the headmaster and my mother was the deputy head. They were the first teachers. And incidentally, my father, a Micah graduate, was one who taught Harry Belafonte at school at Half a Tree Primary School in Jamaica. My mother, likewise, is a teacher. I am a journalist. I am a Jamaican music historian. I am a sound system and radio DJ. What I have to say is that some people have been dishonestly trying to twist and distort the many truths that Lloyd Coxson uttered. The first one is when David Rodigan came out in his only response to Lloyd Coxson's statement was that he was only going to deal with one of many false statements that Lloyd Coxson had made about him. He said at no time, he said that he was the godfather of reggae in Britain, in the UK, and that he challenged Lloyd Coxson to show where he said that. This is masquerading. Masquerading because when the girl presenter said to David Rodigan how does it feel to be the godfather of reggae? In the UK, David Rodigan replied that he's honored. So he accepted the title. If he was a person of integrity, he would have said, no, I am not the godfather of reggae in the UK. Such title should be given to Duke Vin, the first sound system man in Britain in 1955, Count Suckle, Count Steve, Sir Christopher, and many others who followed afterwards, including Lloyd Coxon. The next thing, where they are trying to paint falsely and maliciously that Lloyd Coxon is a racist, was when Lloyd Coxon referred to David Rodigan as white boy. Now get this straight. David Rodigan is what is termed racially, quote unquote, a white person. And the term boy is a term that is used in Jamaica, where Lloyd Coxon and I are from, when we are against someone, a male who has done something which is wrong and who is an adult in terms of age. When they have done something wrong, we refer to them as being a boy. So the term white boy was not meant and said in any racist manner. It was said to show that indeed he is, quote unquote, white, or as I would say, European, and the term boy to show that he was guilty of behavior which was not becoming that of an adult. Let us understand that a lot of Africans in Britain and elsewhere are so mentally enslaved that they are afraid to come out and criticize any European, even when it is in their best interest and it is in the interest of truth. Lloyd Coxon spoke many truths, and David Rodigan did not reply to these many truths because he could not reply to these many truths that Lloyd Coxon uttered. People, look at what Lloyd Coxon said and judge for yourselves. The things that he talked about, the slave mentality with some people in Jamaica who put European people as being better than them, who have low self-esteem and self-hatred. This is a fact. Marcus Garvey, and I am a Marcus Garveyite, told us that we must emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And this is what Lloyd Coxon was doing in speaking the truth. And one does not apologize when one is speaking the truth. And you cannot kill the truth. And it is important that people must recognize that reggae music has always been discriminated against in Britain, in radio and on TV. Number one reggae hits in the charts have come about in spite of racism. Earplay for reggae songs from then and up until now have been subject to racial discrimination. Right now as I speak, you hardly hear any reggae music being played on the licensed government radio stations in Britain, like the BBC and elsewhere, because the playlist is discriminatory against reggae music. This is nothing new. This has always been so. And the fact that a little island like Jamaica, where the Africans of Jamaica who created reggae music, and let us remember, reggae, rocksteady, mento, and ska are the musical creations of the Africans of Jamaica. We are not against other races appreciating and loving and playing our music. But what we are against is when we are denied the level playing field and the opportunities to play our music and to represent our music in terms of stage shows, in terms of being radio DJs on radio stations, etc. This is what we are against, and we will continue to fight. We are not here to beg other people to love us or to like us. What we demand, as Peter Tosh, my favorite whaler, said, is our equal rights and justice. This is not about peace and love, because you must have equal rights and justice. You can have no peace and love if you do not have, as a prerequisite, equal rights and justice. So we will not go around and beat around the bush. Lloyd Coxon, one of the pioneers of reggae music in this country, playing sound systems from the 1960s, also one of the pioneering producers of reggae music, including Lovers Rock. And remember that Lovers Rock is reggae music with love song themes made in Britain by Africans from Jamaica. The first producer for Janet Kay was my favorite singer, Alton Ellis, the Godfather, one of the godfathers of reggae music in Britain. He was the one who first produced Janet Kay. Lloyd Coxon from Jamaica, he was the one who first produced Louisa Mark.
David Rodigan, he was not a sound system man, because he mentioned in his book himself that when he first played out, he didn't play live before he had a radio show. When he played his first time live on a dance, right, after he was on the radio, the audience looked shocked because they didn't know he was a white man. They had to close their eyes, hear his voice, and realize that he was the man who was doing it. Now, the reason why David Rodigan and Tim Westwood got where they were in reggae and hip-hop was because the radio stations at the time, BBC or Capital, they wanted like a Charlie Gillett to host a specialist black music show, because Charlie Gillett played African music mainly on his show, but it was termed world music. And that was why his show was such a groundbreaker and important show in the BBC, because if you had an African man playing African music, people would just think it's just for black people and they wouldn't listen to it. So the same thing happened with David Rodigan. If you had a white man playing rap music or reggae, more people would listen to it. If it was a black guy doing it, they'd think it's just for black people. And that was how Rodigan got there, because you got to realize black people were making reggae music, recording it, and playing it in sound systems up and down the country. So are you going to tell me that they could not find one black person good enough to host a radio show apart from David Rodigan and Tim Westwood, who was doing rap music? You know, that is ridiculous. That is how they got where they were.
Greetings everyone. My name is Danija and I'm a photographer. Mainly I've been photographing reggae musicians and the whole Jamaican music culture since the 70s. And you know, I have a big background in the whole thing. I'm not a singer or DJ or sound operator. I am a chronicle person who document the whole historical developments, visually and also written. Now this situation now that is happening here in England is really problematic and it's unfortunate. And why I say it's unfortunate is simply because, you know, at this present time, we have a lot of people who are writing themselves in our history. When I say our history, the history of the global African, the history of the Jamaican reggae music. There's people who are writing themselves into the history, and they're giving us a lot of falsehood. Now, pertaining to this particular crisis that we have here, and it's considered a crisis because there is a brand, and the brand is Brand Radigan. And he has created this particular kind of brand which is putting himself in the head and the forefront of reggae music right here in the UK. He's a DJ. He's not even a real sound operator in that sense. I believe that he's in the process of now registering himself in terms of his legacy and his heritage and the importance of him right here in the UK. A lot of people have become quite upset. Radigan has been part of the reggae family in the UK, I would say maybe 29, 30, maybe 30 years, 30-something years, from the early 80s. He's been DJing, etc., etc. But I think the big upset is when he claims to be the godfather. That is the big upset. He is not the godfather that spawned everything. You know, the godfather is like the great-grandfather. Everything come out of him. That in itself is a major falsehood. I can only say that in a sense, the reason why that has happened is because of the lack of information. I mean, the people in Jamaica is caught up in the hype in terms of somebody who know how to promote and set themselves as a brand. The people in Jamaica don't really know the history. Maybe it's the Jamaicans' fault here, and the sound operators and the DJ and the people in the music world here who is not really giving the information to the Jamaicans why they make that statement. Hype himself is number one, is everywhere, that type of thing. He's a promotion himself. Unfortunately, he made a mistake to make that kind of commentary. And as I said, there's a lot of people writing their history and trying to write I history when it is not really like that. It's a form of falsehood. So there's a case, and it's a major case against Radigan in terms of what he's trying to do and what he's trying to implement and what is exactly now writing himself in the history, the international history, in fact, of reggae music. England is the #1 place for the launching of reggae music from the early 60s, from 1962 when Millie Small had her #1 hit. It was from here that it was launched. It was 1962. It sold 6 million right here from London. And we know that. Radigan was, I don't know where he was, maybe in the Navy or in the Army or somewhere. So to say he's the granddaddy, no, that is really a falsehood. He's been in the reggae family, as I said, for some time. You know, he's been part of that, what would we call it, the movement here. But he's by far not. I don't even think he's the gate man, really. People introduce him and bring him and him see an outlet. He's been growing. He's part of a number of syndicates here that now is manipulating the whole situation because of the disunity that is here. That's the #1. And he has made himself into something which is not. Radigan, I suggest you apologize, not just to we here in England, but really you should make the Jamaican people know who you are and what you are. Don't upstage yourself. Nobody overrate you. In Jamaica, they don't know what is going on here in England, and we're not telling them. As I said, my name is Danija. I am a photographer. I document and chronicleize reggae music. I have an upcoming book, which I'm working on right now, to clarify the whole situation of reggae, not just in England, but generally the unknown history of what goes on.
Greetings, everyone. This is Ross Troy and Sister Jackie.
Greetings.
We're just here to support Coxon and all what he said in regard to David Radigan. You know, I've been here for a while. I mean, like from '65, and I see all the sound system come through. I mean, sound system Not just man who come as a DJ, talking about sound system, Duke Reed, Count Vin, all of those big sound, not those little young ones just now. And I think that David Rodigan ought to put himself in the reverse. And also, I think that he should contribute certain things to the reggae fraternity. You know, whether you want to do it in Jamaica, I want to do it in England. You know, I think that the system switch itself and give certain individual more power than the real man with the power, such as the Jamaican who created the music. You know, I'm not the one to go out there and shout, but I think at this particular time, I have to say this thing because this thing has been on my mind. Sound like a rhythm there. But David Rodigan, as I said, you want to come forward and contribute because you already eat a lot of food out of reggae music. So the man that you eat the food from, you should really make film plate full up. You get me? So may see it. Rastafari.
Greetings to Rastafari, Empress Mellin on this day. I'm here to support Lydia Coxon, because that's where I'm coming from, in relating to the music business. From a certain age in this country, I've been following Lydia Coxon until now. And I never really know of any godfather by David Rodigan speaking about he's the master of music in this country. Any interviewer, any talker, anything anyone is going to say about sound in this country, there are 500 of them. And the 500 sound, including Lydia Coxon, as I know, is what keeps me alive spiritually and mentally. I don't know anything about David Rodigan. So when I had a look on my WhatsApp and saw that viewing of what ones are saying and backing David Rodigan about the music that Lydia Coxon has created in this country, coming from Jamaica all the way here, letting us happy in spirit and soul with the music, I don't know really what's going on. I'm only here to say what I know. Lydia Coxon needs a better recognition for the music in this country. And that is all I have to say. Rastafari.
Greetings. First, I have to say, greetings in the divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, Kings of Kings, Lords of Lords, conquering Lion of Judah, elected himself, light of this world, Father of iron and unity. Bless. Yes, my name is Jeremiah, and I've been a selector for 45 years, playing music, playing reggae music, sound system. And one of the earliest songs that I can remember that I listened to as a young boy, as a young man, was Sir Coxsone. Now, so Sir Coxsone was one of the sounds that you needed to, this is where you needed to be, because this is where you hear all the latest rhythms, all the latest tunes from Jamaica, you know, one-away tunes and everything. So, if we're talking about the godfather in reggae music, we're not saying Ones and Ones hasn't got a place to play, but they were there, there was those there before. Even when it comes to lovers rock in England, Lydia Coxon was one of the first producers of lovers rock music in England. Louisa Marks, Jimmy Lindsay, It's Easy, them tune there. You know, this is the contribution that we have made. And we, who used to carry the sound box them and play the tune, play artists, unknown artists, we used to do that. And most sound selectors, you know, it was inspired by Sir Coxsone, because we used to have sound like Count Tom, I Spy sound, Lord David sound, you know, it goes on and on.
Rastafari, Selassie, blessed greetings. My name is Ras Bob, long-time lover and supporter of music from Jamaica from its earliest time, really for me, was in about 75, which is a new thing when it comes to reggae music, really, because obviously the roots stretches back to earlier times than that. But when the activity and the fullness of the dimension of roots music reached London was really probably the early 70s in my view. So when we left school and we start follow certain sounds, and me was never a man to stick to one sound. It was like in them days, the youths as we were could travel any part of London. You'd be East London, you'd be North London or Harlesden, you'd be East London, South London, Brixton, then you'd come around and anywhere you'd go and follow music. In them times, obviously Coxon, Safana B, before that, Fat Man, so you'd be up Tottenham Wood Green one time and then you'd be down North London, then maybe you'd be Labrick Grove or in the avenues for Shabeen and blues dance in those days, the early things. And the main thing about this, the music then, for us, the youths born in England, it was a whole transition of understanding the experience and the trod and the Rasta consciousness that came through really from the brethren and the sistren, from the hard side of life in Jamaica, and then transferred to the musicians that also came out of them fields. And the sound men really gave us that culture, the ones born in England. And when you look back at that time, it was a rebel music still, because it wasn't universal for all people who love reggae music then. If anything, it was a sufferer and a rebel music still. It wasn't commercialized. Virgin and island music hadn't taken it up to the fullness when we started following sound system and going dance. And then there was only really two mainstream, if it wasn't a pirate radio station or thing, there was only two mainstream radio stations that took it up. Obviously the Radio London or that one, and then there was the one where Rodigan was attached to at that time. So you had the other man, Tony Williams, that would play on one side and Rodigan on the other. And that gave Rodigan the element to come through and promote reggae music, where he would work with certain artists. I only really see it from the London point of view, from the dances held. And at that time we had lots of choice for entertainment when it come to going to a dance. But Rodican did hold quite a few dances. I saw him when he was regular really down at Labrick Grove and then things. For me, the big problem always with Rodigan, other than the fact that it is a European man promoting reggae music at that time, which still was a rarity. If you look now, everybody, it's very much presented in England as a universal thing, reggae music, through certain commercialization. We can all talk about the roots of how that commercialization happened. But Rodigan managed to bring it on the radio and present it as a more mainstream thing, which then it had broken through anyway through Chris Blackwell and the Island Records and the Virgin Records, and all the way those things took it on, because they see a lot of money in reggae music. They foresaw this time. They saw the finance. But the crying shame of it all when it comes to black music generally throughout the world is it always is credited to white musicians and white promoters and white people at the end of the day. If you look at the story of rock and roll, jazz, blues, even now when you look at hip hop and those various things, and unfortunately the roots music seems to be trying to be presented that way. So that's why me personally, I wouldn't like to look at someone like the man there for bringing forward reggae music in this country. I would see it more like the tradition shows us through our past, that they always grab onto our music when they see there's a certain amount of money and then promote it. And the big thing for me with his dances is you're playing a lot of music from people in Jamaica that understand and know the sacrament of the herb, and Rasta people know about the herb, and lots of the musicians promoted from early time before people are talking about legalization and allowing herb in this time. And what happened now in Jamaica, a small allowing it, when before so much man were put in prison. Anytime you go to the man's dance, he would condemn the smoking in the dance. Yet every tune a play, a ganja music and a promote the herbs and thing, but he would condemn it. Rastafari Selassie.
You can't introduce in some authentic kind of musical disc that I would play. Musical disc called the Coxton Fevers, I would say. But I keep it to you if you can. East, west, north to south, London town.